Alright, I think we is live. So I'm talking about people. Let's close all of this, share this. I believe we is live. Alright. I'm just sharing this. Usual. Un momento, por favor. Almost done. All right. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا وحوانيين لايتس وbienvenidos a todos وبخير راغلي and swagatam people swagatam. Alright, muy bien Taron, y tú qué tal, qué hubo. Alright, what's going down hermano? Right, all good, man. That's it, mi familia. That's what I'm talking about. Where's my... Oh, right, yes, salam. I've forgotten my... I've jotted down some notes so to make sure I cover these topics. Un momento. Coming right back to the Mufti cave. Zoom back in. Alright. Just make sure I haven't forgotten my... Because there's some topics I've said I'd cover, so I'll keep them in front of me so I don't forget. Hatta la ansa, people. Alright. Well, how are you all? How has it been? What's been going down, folks? What's been going down? Let me get the Red Bull open. Alright. Look at the style. The ish style, people. Alright. I should get this sponsored by Red Bull. And then people will say he's probably promoting some kind of god deity, the bull deity. People, what a week, huh? What a week. As always, fun and games. This, alcohol. Wow. Natties. You know, people, that how else do we sit here, huh? कौन कम वक्त बर्दाश्त करने के लिए बैठता है? This is it's by the drink that we Allah, as Abu Nawas said, دعنك اللوم فإن اللوم إغراء. He said, forget all this, cut out all this blaming and trying to act all, they were trying to tell him off for his drink. He said, stop all this trying to tell me off and act all holy. وَدَاوِنِي بِالَّتِي كَانَتْ هِيَ الدَّاءُ. Allah. He said, and medicate me with that which is my illness. That in this, that is my shifa. That's the... And he finishes that poem off quite interestingly. I mean, some of the next lines are very interesting, but if I say them... Scandal! There'll be the scandal. The next lines he speaks about that like the barmaid, the woman that serves the alcohol where he used to go. He says, this is a classical, obviously, Abu Nawas from the time of the Abbasids, Ma'mun Amin, Khulafa, from their time. So, when he used to go there, he says it's served by a barmaid, a woman, who dresses as a man. What does he say? He says, Min dhati kafi harrin fi ziyyi dhi dhakarin. Allah says, from the hand of a woman in the dress of a man. Laha muhibbani lutiyyu wa zanna'u. He says everybody loves her. The guy who's straight and the guy who's... He says everybody's in love with her. But he finishes off that poem by saying to one of the scholars who had picked on him in his time. He says, قُلْ لِمَنْ يَدَّعِي فِي الْعِلْمِ فَلْسَفَةً. He says, tell this person who makes a claim that he has this knowledge. He says, عَلِمْتَ شَيْئًا وَغَابَتْ عَنْكَ أَشْيَاءُ. Allah, Allah, Allah. He says, you may have learnt something, but many a thing still remain hidden from you. Allah, Allah. Ah, what a hero. One of my heroes in poetry, Abu Nawas. Right, so, where are we, people? What's going down? How... See, that's an opening with Abu Nawas, huh? Out of the blue, I didn't even... Well, anyway, how are you all doing, people? We're fast approaching, play on words, fast approaching Ramadan. So there's going to be a bit of talk about that. I will be releasing all together with an index, hopefully, my fast and fiqhious people questions. All right, I gotta come back to that, Karan Arjun. Remind me, I'm gonna come back to that. Right, so my fast and fiqhious will be released. You should drink with the left hand, brother. But I got it in the both hands. Now what do I do with one? What if I'm dyslexic? It's not my fault. Like I'm like left, right, left, right, left, right. What am I supposed to do? Are you telling me God has purposely challenged me and then he's going to punish me for being dyslexic? It is interesting, if I'm going to be honest. Because I'm ambidextrous, I can write with both hands. And I do write with both hands. Right? So, but I'm, in essence, left-handed. So, I'd learned to write with my right hand probably from the age of about 19, 20, like that onwards. And then, so first I focused only in Arabic. And in the last few years, maybe just a year and a half, I started to focus the English with my right hand as well. So when you start using both hands, you actually get confused between left and right. I don't know if it's just me, my handicapped nature. But I genuinely, because I used to tell directions by thinking of my hand, the hand I write with. So when I used to think left, I used to think the left hand I write with. I don't know why that is. To some people it's so straightforward. They just think left. I always thought left, like because of my hand. And since I started to write with my right hand, that just messed everything up. Yeah. How do I do istinja? Yaar, ye lota kis haath se Relax, people, relax. It's only humor. So what's going on, man? Should we take some questions? Oh no, flat earthers are here. Well, I hope not. God, flat earthers. Oh, what a joke. So, what's going on? We've got a few things to discuss, but let's take some questions. Are Sufi Silsilas authentic? Your thoughts on Daniel Haqiqatjou? I commented on his page. But let me come to the Sufi thing first. Sufi Silsilas, are they authentic? You see, my understanding, they're not. But that's not to... you see, Sufism, in my understanding, is kind of... and that's not to mean spirituality, but the formation that it's taken is, in my understanding, more a folklore need. It's like people need religion to be like that. So it is for people, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't... Many of my teachers, not all, but many of them, many of my friends, not all, are Sufis and involved with Sufi tariqas. I don't condemn it by any means, but I don't believe it was the authentic. I think it's more that kind of folkloric Islam or religion that people need, because they can identify easier with that than they can with the truer concepts of Islam, because they're a bit remote. The truer concepts of Islam sometimes are too... You see, people need that kind of... They need stories, they need stuff, they need this kind of stuff, you see, to fill the gaps. So this is like what atheists would call the God of the gaps. Not that this is, but these are the gaps that people have, so they fill them up with folklore. Ah, well, each to their own. Each to their own. Somebody asked about Daniel Haqiqatjou. I mean, I don't really know too much about Daniel Haqiqatjou. First, I thought he was a sheikh. I don't know, because I thought he was a sheikh, and then somebody saying no, he isn't. I don't know. Some people online were saying he's an academic, like as in studied physics or something, and done some Islamic studies at a university. But I thought he was traditionally trained, as in he studied all the major books of Sharia, Fiqh, Usul, Quran, Hadith, you know, everything, the whole classical works, the breadth. So when people study, they study Quran and its sciences, which is the recitation, but the actual tafsir and the actual... whether that will include tap into language, which will come separately, but also usul al-tafsir, then hadith and usul al-hadith, the actual books of hadith, riwayatan wa dirayatan, jarh wa ta'dil. They'll study fiqh, sharia, which is usul al-fiqh and the madhabs. All of these to like at least an intermediate and beyond advanced level. They'll study language, nahu, sarf, balagha, badi', you know, ma'ani, these kind of sciences, adab. They'll study those, adab. They'll study aqidah, history. All of these things will be covered from your foundational to intermediate to advanced. And then you would specialize in certain. So I thought he was, but then I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe he is. I don't know. The impression I'm getting, he isn't. But I came across this post which I commented on. You see, maybe I read it wrong. So I could be, it could be my misunderstanding, but I read it as him saying that takfir, we need more takfir in our day and age. So I pray to God I read that wrong, because I commented by saying, the logic with takfir, more is less, is absurd. Like, this is nothing to do with Islam. Takfir means calling people Kaffir, calling Muslims Kafirs. Like, that just makes no sense. Like, so I don't know, maybe he was speaking about something and he worded it in a way that is not very clear to people, because I wasn't the only person on. The other people on his post that saw it were taking a similar understanding. But I was shocked by how many people were all for it. Like, yeah, chuck out these kafirs from Islam. And I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Ustad Daniel, but you yourself are a convert to Islam, are you not? That's great, isn't it? You come into Islam and chuck us out. Chuck the Muslims out. Na jaan na pehchan, main tera mehman. One of those, huh? This is... So I don't know, maybe that's not what he meant and I misunderstood. Me and all those other people on the post misunderstood it. But takfir is not the way of Islam. Declaring Muslims kafir, we don't do that. Okay? Generally, the method is anybody who prays to our qibla is a Muslim. And then we could say certain things are kufr. But we shouldn't, and definitely we shouldn't get obsessed in actually trying to chuck people out. If some councils and some things and boards that got together in a particular time and wanted to do something about a crucial issue, that's fine. But this is one of those issues that's radioactive. You do not touch this. Seriously, this was the trait of the Khawarij in Islam, to declare people to be Kaffir. You know, Allah, this deen, the Prophet of God said, he said, Bashiru, bring people in, invite them. Wala tunafiru, do not frighten them away from this deen. And to declare people Kaffir is one of the, in this day, because the way people are declaring people Kaffir, it's not over these, oh, he said there's 3 gods. It's over these tiny little things, like, oh, you don't accept that, you Kaffir. You don't eat chicken and chips, you Kaffir. You know, it's like, you know, like I told you about that, I think I mentioned once before that anecdote of once when I was in a chip shop and some Salafi was ordering and he was getting all upset and they had a confusion over the order. And he said, no, I ordered chicken and chips. And the guy said, no, you ordered this and chips. And he said, no. He said, I did not order that chicken. And the guy, he said, I tell you what, may the curse of Allah be on me if I ordered chicken. And then he said, I want you to say that may the curse of God be on you. If you wanted to do the, you know, the medieval mubahala, right there in a chip shop in Small Heath in Birmingham. May the curse of Allah be on that chicken. And the chicken's like, what the hell, guys? You know, you've already slaughtered me. Now at least let me be in peace. You guys are like, oh, well, that's some of the fun and games you get, man. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum, ahlan wa sahlan Savim, Mustafa, Fahim, Allah, ahlan wa sahlan, all of you. Those of you tuning in, click like, click share, let's get this out there. So that's my point. Also, I did respond to this, so I that's not to be, I just wanted to say about some comments of certain sheikhs that I commented about Takfir. Look, that's not to necessarily attack him, but to attack an understanding. I think these understandings are dangerous. Chucking people out of Islam is a dangerous, dangerous game. Right, so what else is going down, people? We've had an awesome, by the way, meetup. What's the Iddah for 50-year-old widow women? Right, okay. Allahu Akbar. You see, the Iddah generally that's mentioned in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ يَتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ وَيَذَرُونَ أَزْوَاجًا, that they wait فَيَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ وَعَشْرًا, that those women who whose husbands have died, they're widows, then they have an iddah of 4 months and 10 days. There is some ikhtilaf amongst the Salaf, going right down to the fact some people transmitting only 3 days of an iddah for a widow and things like this. That is part of the, you know, the discourse, although that's been generally rejected. But iddah simply means, generally it's a state of prohibition of nikah. You don't get married. In this case, there's that element of mourning. And I think really, in my understanding, I think these in the past were more safeguarding measures for a society, which still actually carry through today. And it wasn't really just about pregnancy, but also the fact that when people have died, I think a lot of sometimes hatred boils over and a lot of emotions are running high. So let's say, and this is why there's ihdad, which is that the woman doesn't adorn herself during that iddah. And according to the Malikiyah and the Shafi'iyah, that is this absence of adornment is only for the widow, not for the divorcee. I know the Hanafi disagree in that, but the reason being, because that, you see, sometimes emotions are high. And people, and this is a time where inheritance is going on and division of assets and money, and this triggers people's greed. You know, Allah says, وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحَّ. And people, you know, when money is being discussed, people, their greed kind of comes into it. And, you know, like, let's say, for example, somebody's son's wife, or somebody's mother, or somebody's brother's wife has become a widow, or even a friend's wife has become a widow. Let's just say, or in a tribe. Now, let's say it's day 4, and she's sitting there, she's all done up, all beautified, and now technically you could say, well, what's the big deal? But you see, because societies are very complex and people find excuses to kind of attack people, and they might seek out vulnerable people. Now, these women, especially being a widow at that time, may be at a heightened state of vulnerability. So people might start saying, oh, check her out. She just can't wait. She just couldn't wait for him to die. So she's just looking for another guy, basically. And these kind of things, you can see this happening, and this does unfortunately happen, and it's utterly wrong. But in my understanding, I think that this Iddah and the Ihdad was a safeguarding against that. That look, 4 months, just over the 4-month period, because that was known, was a mourning time, that look, let it be. And even for her to go through this kind of mourning, obviously she's lost a partner, and to go through this grieving process and get over it. So that's what I hope. Right, so that's my understanding of why the Iddah of the widow was the way it is. And for the divorcee, I think the strategy applies for not being able to get married straight away, because it would lead, not so because of the pregnancy as well, potential pregnancy, but also because it would lead to this, that people would say, oh, so the only reason you messed up the marriage was because you were planning to marry this guy. And I'm just giving an example in general. Right, so that's my general understanding of this. Is something narrated by, is somebody saying, is there any Shia? What? Is there any Shia? I don't know what that means. Okay, people, let's move on. Next question. All right. Those of you that were aware, well, you know, I still might as well get this out the way. Some interesting discussions. Last week I spoke about a troll, and he'd openly made these challenges of certain ahadith to do with Isa, because somebody's asking about Isa alayhi salam and the return, and the person had openly made a claim saying that this is transmitted by Umar ibn al-Khattab and Ibn Umar, and I said that these two narrations are these two. I said I really look forward to these two. Mere Karan Arjun, I was saying, mere Karan Arjun aayenge, mere Karan Arjun. But what was hilarious is that, you know, these kind of trolls, they're actually a group of them, and many of them are actually Imams, and including Maulvi Yasir al-Hanafi, and they're actually part of a particular group, by the way. They've got chat groups which people who are privy to have told me about. I've been like, just what how miserable is that? But anyway, so the very next day, guess who gets a message? Guess who gets a message from Maulvi Yasir al-Hanafi? Huh? Me? So I get a private message from Maulvi Yasir al-Hanafi telling me that you arrogant, or you know, blah, 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 shouldn't act so confident. You're going to get schooled now, because there are hadith by Ibn Umar and Umar on this chapter, and this layman, you know, this regular Muslim knows more than you about hadith. So next time you try to act so confident, you ignorant, blah, 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 blah. And he said that there's so many of them, but I'm just going to let you get to them. So I said, I said to him, you see, because this is the difference. I've actually studied this whole chapter. And this is the thing, that they haven't actually studied it. So I said, okay, my John, Maulvi Sahab, I said, can you bring them to me, please? So what they had done was run some searches on Ibn Umar and the term Jesus. But what they hadn't realized is they hadn't bothered to read the content of the hadith. It was nothing to do with this. It was nothing to do with this. It was just about a dream, about the Prophet seeing Jesus in a dream. So 1 week later, and I'm still waiting, yaar, mere Karan Arjun aayenge, mere Karan Arjun aayenge. But no, ye bandhan to, this is one of those pyar ka bandhan, right? But now they're obviously, now they're like, well, just completely, anyway. But it's amazing, huh? People getting so obsessed. Wow. You know what is disappointing though? Is how these people are, these ain't your regular people. These are your people with yahan tak dadiyan rakhi hui hain. They got like beards up to here. The imams in mosques, like Maulvi Yasir, an imam in Bradford here. They've got Hamza Maqbool, an imam does his own thing in America. Naif, an imam in Michigan. Imams of masjids, all part, you know, they're wasting their, investing their precious time plotting, backbiting on groups. That Zamil from here, and once again an imam for them. Amazing, wow, subhanallah. And and this is their thing, that, oh, why does he bring up these things? So God wants us to expose him. So what we're going to do, now check this out, we're going to find old jokes he shared with us privately, let's say where he's used swear words, or in a joke where he's spoken about sex, on a joke, let's say, and we want to expose this. I've been like, seriously, and Maulvi Yasir is the first person who then messages me this and tells me that this Anthony Gonzalez, he goes to me, oh, you use the swear word, oh. I was like, what are we, 8? Oh, you use the swear word, oh. So I was like, seriously, is that the best you can do? Get some messages from me that are about 3 years old, and you want to share these to say that this guy isn't pious. I've never acted to be pious, my friends. And check this out. You think, well, okay, fine. I mean, apart from the fact that I've been asked on these topics and discussed them at length before, when Maulanas like Khadim Hussain Rizvi Saab, who I disagree with passionately on many things, but one of the things I was asked earlier this year when he had his sit-in was about his swearing on TV, and I said that although these things are not necessarily haram per se, but in public like that is probably not the best thing to do. So you'd think, well, Maulana's trying to say, well, look, oh, you know a swear word, let's put this in public. I mean, Imam Sahab, is that the best you can do? And you putting this in public as an imam, as imams, like, is that the, wow, how dumb is that? Like, he doesn't believe in Jesus coming back, or why did he question Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi for using offensive words about the Prophet? I know, let's do and you think now they would be happy. You think they would be happy now. But now they're more upset that why ain't I offended? Wow, I'm just seriously, this is so amazing. This is what we've got to. So this is the kind of things that people, these are imams, by the way, imams. Wow, people who lead communities, act all holy. I've said to people, look, guys, this is what, and this is my nasiha, by the way, to all students of knowledge. You know, just this weekend, we met up with some great people, came round, had an awesome discussion, right, vampire session right through the night. Sheikh Imran from Leicester, there was Uthman, Brother Hanif, a Dr. Jamil or something, some awesome discussions, Ustad Mazari, right throughout the night. And one thing I mentioned, this came up quite a bit, about ulama, scholars. Scholars really need to be independent. They really need to be independent. And this is a perfect example. You see, to these people, to Karan Arjun, you see, the thing is, nothing of mine, like everything of mine is independent. Everything. Like, I don't rely on your audiences, on your promotions, on your masjids. I don't have anything to do with any masjids. You know, today these masjids are unfortunately nothing but hubs of sectarianism. What does Allah say? Anna al-masajida lillah. The masjids are God's. Allah. Today they've turned them into dens of hate and stuff like this. I don't have anything to do with these masjids. Right? My money, my finances, my lifestyle, my circles, everything is independent. So this is what hurts them even more, that, like, why does it, that why can't we get to him? So you need to be independent if you want to think, you know, if you want to have your own views, if you don't want to be bullied. Now look at this, seriously, this is how they would intimidate normal people. So you can imagine, if I was a normal Mulvi now, I would have been heavily intimidated now. I would have been bullied, because they would have already boycotted me. They've made these groups. They're trying to say, oh, you know, here's a personal joke you made 3 years ago. Let's put it in the public. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's share messages of yours in the public. Let's tell him, you know, 3 years ago you mentioned him in a comment. Last year, you know, this is their attempt. If I was a regular, let's say, Mulvi, I would have been probably doomed. Probably. But I is not regular. मैं जरा अलग type का हूँ. You know, I'm a bit different, you know, this one. So, and that they're getting frustrated even more. And this is the thing, you know, they openly, check this out, they openly will attack me. Okay, I was asked a question about Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, right, Saab. I actually am against calling him a Kaffir. I've defended not calling him a Kaffir. But I have said, for anybody who compares the knowledge of the Prophet to an animal or a madman, that comparison, this is utterly unacceptable. That in itself is kufr. But I would try to make a nice excuse and say maybe he did it by mistake. These guys are actively defending this, you know, all this Yasir Hanafi, even this Hamza Maqbool, Naif, all these people, even though they will say, you know, we don't, they will not condemn this aspect, right? They will justify. Now they got offended because I was asked, I answered, but I actually said, don't call him, I'm against calling him a Kaffir, I'm against calling people Kaffir. However, that is bang out of order, right? And you can ask these people, so they get upset. And they get upset, oh, and what? They go out there, one of them's publicly calling my mum a bitch, calling, you know, they've set up pages to insult my dad. This is what, seriously, this is Imams are doing this. They're behind, everybody on these pages and memes is like almost an alim, or maybe a one odd exception isn't, but most of them are all ulama. Cussing my dad, insulting my dad. When Sheikh Adam al-Kawthari, Ibn Adam al-Kawthari from Leicester said to them, look guys, you know, this is out of order, this kind of ghiba, they started turning on him, saying, oh, God tells us it's okay to condemn, to insult deviants. Allah says it's okay. This is what extremism is, people. This is what this ghulu takes people to. Allah's telling us we can insult. Look, you don't even know my mum and dad. Fine. Cuss them, you know, is that the best you can do? What am I, like 9 years old? You know, like, this is the best you can do, make memes about my dad. Oh, like, this is, I bet, you know, his dad is like this. Who wants to be his dad? Who wants to be his, what is this? Is that the best you can do? I'm saying have an academic, you know, like, refute me, disagree with me, refute me, you know, say that he's made a mistake and here's the correct versions. Make your videos, present them to people. You think I'm misguided? Don't follow me. Simple as. But yet this and publicly they will say we've got nothing to do with these pages. And yet privately they are the ones behind these very pages. Wow, honestly, these big names, like, these people will go on live supporting, and these people who openly swearing to my mom and my dad openly in public, these people will all go on their broadcasts and support them live. Wow. Just because they disagree with me on an Islamic understanding. Because God wants them to do it. You see, this is why hatred, when I read out of that book the other day, religious hatred is of its worst kind. Worst kind, people. It's one of the worst kinds of hatred, this disease in the hearts of people, because people say God wants me to do it. Why am I insulting his dad and mum? Because God wants me to. Why am I obsessed with him? Because God wants. These people remember me, seriously, I would guarantee you, they remember me more on a daily basis than they do remember Allah. And that is tried and tested. You just need to go to their pages. It's full of, they're blocked with me. Somebody showed me a page of one of these people for 4 months. Every day almost, he was just talking about me. I mean, you think, wow, yeah, I'm confused, you know, I'm confused. I don't know whether to be flattered or to be freaked out. Like, what? Grown men. Then they say, why does Mufti swear? Baba. This is why I is independent. Carry on, do whatever the hell you want. Right, so anyway, I thought I'd mention that. A few people had asked me. I thought, how petty and dumb is this? Even with Ramadan coming. But yeah. Yep, this guy is for real. Did God email those people? Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I see some of the stuff and I just laugh. I showed it to some other people who are not even part of the religious scene at all. Like family members. I said, hey, check this out. What people are trying to share about me. And we just all burst out laughing. Then they get upset. Why is he not hurt? I'm like, well, you nutty. But at the end of the day, you know that, what is it? That, Areo Samba, kitne aadmi the wo kaliya. There's only one of me and there's so many of these. So many. It's only one. Phir bhi. You gotta say, you know, there's that dialogue in one of those movies. The guy says, he goes, manna padega, ladka takkar ka hai. He says, you gotta say, the kid, the guy's, he's a proper match though. Anyway, let's get back to some questions, people. We got to discuss as well, I'm going to come to the topic, a very serious topic later on in a moment, about marital rape. I'll come to that. What other issues have we got going on? Let's take some questions going in here. Then let's take some questions and then we'll go back, forth. Anything else? Ramadan as well. What's going down? Can you explain? Oh, that's going to be such a long... why are miracles not literal, since God can't he allow the prophets? Imam Ghazali's Ihya. Right, you know, this miracle thing, I'm getting a bit bored of it. I'm going to do a whole... I'm going to, inshallah, at some point do a whole dedicated lecture to it. The understanding is not... Look, you've got to understand, it's not about denying miracles. Nobody's denying miracles per se, but it's, do these miracles have causes? Like, do they have natural explanations or not? Are they just like, for example, one day there was no chicken here, next day there's a chicken here? That's, some people want to take that. The Quran generally mostly mentions means. Sometimes it alludes because it cuts stories short. So one could take the understanding by saying, oh, maybe this was without any means whatsoever. But to me, that will then go against the general message of Islam, that Allah does not work in that way. He doesn't go against his own laws. So when you read several of these verses, you can understand them in both ways. If you start going down the road of saying, well, we don't need consistency, it's okay, things can just happen in a vacuum. Like, so normally everybody follows, there's always laws and means, but for prophets, sometimes, not anything. So one day a prophet is going and something can just appear out of thin air and it just stays there. Like, so these kind of things, the problem with accepting that line of thought is then you have to accept it for everybody. You have to accept it for Hinduism too. You have to accept that Ganesh can have an elephant's head. You have to accept that then. You know, that Shiva kind of chopped his head off and then put an elephant's head on instead. You have to accept that Hanuman could have kind of flown across as a monkey and saved Sita and then done all this, flown back and, done all of these things. You have to accept the possibility of these. You have to accept the possibility of people like, in the last century, Satya Sai Baba from India and the miracles he's performed. You have to entertain them. You can't just be dismissive. That's double standards. You can't say, for them we're going to act all scientific and for us it doesn't matter. That's called double standards. So to me, Islam is all about one set of standards and consistency. Now, if you want to believe in like a double set of standards, that's up to you. You can do that. But then that's just easier to break down your faith. When atheists and other people will break down your version of Islam, it will just be much easier to do. Because you yourself will argue against it when it comes to all other religions. So you will argue against it in Hinduism, in Christianity. Why couldn't God be Jesus? Why? It could be a miracle. Why can't 3 be 1? It could be a miracle. Why can't, Hanuman have been deputized with all these powers? Could have been a miracle. Why? So you've got to make up your mind. Do I want consistency or not? So that's my understanding. Right. Yasir Qadhi, Sheikh Yasir Qadhi is really good. Of course, I've got nothing generally against Sheikh Yasir Qadhi. I think, he's doing a good job. I wish he would just be more, challenge some of the issues even more. See, the problem is that even with people, or the challenges that even people like Sheikh Yasir Qadhi will face and other people, it doesn't matter how popular they are. They're very popular. But that then, because their audiences are still very fickle-minded, they never built up their audiences by being challenging. You see, I will challenge ideas. People who like me will like me knowing my attitude. So you have a kind of personality that people are familiar with. But if I try to build an audience by acting all really strict or very pious and holy, and then 10 years down the line I try to challenge things, I run the risk of being boycotted by my own audience. So even people like Sheikh Yasir Qadhi, or even great ulama, not just him, they won't be able to speak their mind entirely. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they, maybe even half the things that they actually believe, half of them they refuse to kind of share, because they feel that if they share it, people will either reject them or they will reject so they can't really do that because they're not 100% independent, and then they work for organizations. So if they become controversial, the organization will tell them off. So let's just say if you work for Maghrib or one of these other institutes, if you become highly controversial, then the institute will tell you off, and your bread and butter and money depends on them. So this is, but I think Sheikh Yasir Qadhi is an amazing, gifted, talented, youngish scholar that we've got, alhamdulillah. I just wish he would be even more challenging of some of the issues, that's all. Right, so what else is going on? What else is going on? Somebody asked me, was I always independent? No, I wasn't always independent. I grew up from a Braillevi kind of background, but I studied with all institutes. I studied in a Braillevi madrasa, in Deobandi madrasa, in an al-Hadith madrasa. I studied in Damascus in the late 90s when it was an amazing, beautiful and peaceful place. I studied with many diverse shuyukh, with Maliki shuyukh, Shafi'i shuyukh, Hanafi shuyukh. I studied with Zahiri scholars, believe it or not, people who had a passion for a school that isn't even pretty much in existence. And I learnt a lot. I learnt a lot from diverse people. I came back to this country after having graduated and completing the Quran, memorizing the Quran, gaining ijazah with a chain going back to the Prophet, completing my scholar studies with all those diverse sciences, completing my Mufti course. Somebody said, by the way, why do you act, if you're not holy, why do you call yourself a Mufti? That's a decent question. Well, first of all, Mufti is a functional title. It's not an honorific. Like Allama or Sheikh or Pir Sahib. It's not like that. Mufti is a title of function, of skill. Mufti in Arabic means somebody who is trained and skilled to be able to issue Islamic rulings, which I am. Right, so that is the truth. I am skilled to do that, and I'm trained, and I've been tested, and I've passed the qualifications. It's like saying if you're a neurosurgeon, you are a surgeon. Like, it doesn't mean, so that's not the same as trying to act as a holy man. I've said very clearly before, by the way, I've never pretended to act holy, and I'm not, and I don't consider myself in that sense holy, and I don't. I've never, when I've been asked the question, I've been asked before, would you say you're a religious person? I've said that's an interesting question because, of course, I'm involved in religion. So from that aspect, yes. But from, he is a holy man, always doing tasbih, always like this, always very, I've never said, I never want to claim to be like that. I am simply a regular person who, by the grace of Allah, fell in love with the legacy of Islam. And then Allah guided me and He gave me the ability to study this legacy. I fell in love with this tradition. I fell in love with the character of the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I will continue to defend the honor of God and His Messenger against these misrepresentations that people present. That's all I do, and I do my own study. I issue rulings. When people want rulings, I teach people that this deen is a deen of ease. And that's what it doesn't come from me, it came from the Messenger of God Himself. He said, Inna khayra dinikum aysaruhu. The best of your deen is the most easiest. He said, Yassiru wa la tu'assiru. Make ease, do not make difficulty. Invite, do not frighten away. I will till my dying breath, God willing, defend the Messenger of Allah's honor and defend Allah, as they are being presented as irrational and counter-reason forces. So people are saying the Messenger of Allah is unreasonable. They are saying Allah is unreasonable. So I will defend that. Along the way I may upset people, it doesn't bother me. So as to being holy or pious, or I've never claimed to be these things, and I don't want to, and I don't want to be an imam in a masjid. None of those things. They don't interest me in the slightest. I'd never make it on time anyway. So that would be pathetic for me to do. So, but this is my simple kind of thing that I just put out there. Right, so, and these sciences, wallahi, for people who can study them, they are amazing. They are amazing if you can study them. But you have to become, at the end, if you want to share your views, you have to be independent. Okay, so that's my only kind of nasiha to you guys. So yeah, so I mean, I was so that's when people ask, oh, you're a mufti. So this is how that, when you're qualified, you can give a ruling and stuff like this. But yeah, I lost my train of thought on that. But I was saying that, look, I studied, my background. And when I came back to the UK after finishing my studies, I studied with non-Muslims. I studied religion, the philosophy of religion at Birmingham University with non-Muslim professors. Some of the most amazing people when it came to religion. They had so much respect. It shocked me, it shook my world, I'm going to be honest. I couldn't, wow, like I thought, how did these people have so much adab to religion? I studied that. I studied psychology when I came, and these things showed me, and by the grace of Allah, that to become independent. But yeah, so when you laughing your own website, when you launching, is that what it's meant to say? Right, when you're launching your website. My website is under construction, inshallah. Bi'idhnillah. An qarib. Went to Damascus, free or did you pay? No, it depends. Some of the institutes we paid, some were free. I went to Damascus in a long time ago now. I think, was it 97? Something like that. And I was there for about under 2 years. And so it's a long time ago. And then I went again. I went on about 3 occasions to Damascus. I think I went again in 2001, again in 2003. Stayed several months each time, stuff like that. Got ijazah in the Quran. It was amazing. Back then it was very peaceful. But yeah. All right, let's move on to other questions. People, what are we looking at? What's going on? Right, okay. I've been asked on this... how is it double standards? The miracle thing, look, I've explained that. It's double standards in saying that we don't need consistency, that's all. But then saying other people need consistency. Or either they don't need consistency either. Because that's the angle. But anyway, I'll leave that to then. Rizq after Fajr. I'm not sure what that means, rizq after Fajr. Right, so... okay, whilst you're putting up some questions there, those of you just tuning in, click like, click share, people. And by the way, do also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. Alright. So do subscribe to that. I'm always getting snippets posted on there separately, so you can always benefit from them as well. Is there such thing as being too reasonable? I think that question says it all. Does sleeping in the morning lead to bebarakati? Of course not. This is cultural, because look, in culture, especially even here, not even just in the hot countries, even here, a lot of people work in the early hours. So even in our day and age, you go to the office, you go wherever you go to work, you go to your shop, it's usually in the morning. In the Arab world, in the time of the Prophet, it wasn't no different. Even today, in most parts of the Muslim world, in hot countries, people go out to work early morning because then it gets too hot. And then they take a break from noon right till late afternoon. And then they do a bit of work from the late afternoon till nightfall. So that's because it's really hot. So you can imagine in those cultures why it would be seen as this is, sleeping in the daytime or sleeping through the morning would be seen as a lack of barakah in rizq from a practical perspective. Like, because if you're sleeping when everybody's working, but today we live in a different world. People work at night, some people do night shifts, some people work online, some people work over the phone, some people work from home, some people just work as projects. That reality has changed. Okay, so and Allah's saying that that we made the day a source of working, and we made the night a source of rest. He didn't mean it was haram, he just meant generally for mankind. But obviously, if you work at night like we do in this day and age, that's fine. Okay. How much you bench pressing? Not enough, man. I'm just trying, you know what? I'm trying to get back into the whole bulking mode now, and but Ramadan, so I don't know what's gonna happen there. Right, okay. whilst you're loading up some questions, there had been a question on this beast of the end of times, which I will clarify. You see, look, this beast at the end of time, some people, there's, in a lot of the Aqidah books, it speaks of a beast at the end of time. Now, none of the Aqidah books are actually clear about what this means. And even the scholars today, when they speak about it, they're not actually too sure what it means. Like if you ask them for the details, they don't actually know. In a previous video, I had read how Ibn Ashur stated that that was on the Day of Judgment. So some people wrote an article against me saying that he's misquoting Ibn Ashur, and that's not true. Ibn Ashur doesn't say that. And I did say on my thing that, look, this is, somebody could say, I understand something different from what Ibn Ashur is saying, but to say I'm misquoting is a stretch. It's not even a stretch, it's just wrong, right? You can't say I'm misquoting because I'm not. And so people got involved. Unfortunately, also, I think people unnecessarily got involved, amongst them Ustad Sahib Saeed, who I do respect and love, you know, as a friend. Now, he got in touch, he got involved. He also wrote an article supporting that statement that I'm misquoting. Then I got in touch with Ustad Sahib, and we had a lengthy discussion, and he reread his stance and understood and actually made it very clear that that it's incorrect to say I'm misquoting. And he actually said that I see what you're saying, Ibn Ashur could be saying that, although he would still like to take the understanding that Ibn Ashur is not saying that. But it's plausible, definitely, from what Ibn Ashur is saying, that's what he is saying. I will actually clarify it by reading it in a moment and show you that he is actually saying that. Nevertheless, so the reason I mentioned that about Ustad Sahib is because he put an article out there in the public domain. So people had asked me about it, so I responded that, look, as far as I'm aware, he's very clear that I'm not misquoting now. At that stage, he said that he felt he rushed into his maybe decision and he shouldn't have. So Alhamdulillah, but I you know, although I didn't like the fact that, you know, why put an article, why not just contact me first and have a discussion, why put an article against me? But still, nevertheless, I appreciate and liked the civil discussion that followed. You know, he got in touch, disagreed. In fact, it was a whole day's discussion, back forth, voice notes, messages, rechecking. I rechecked, maybe I'd made a mistake. He rechecked, and then at the end he said, well, you know what, coming to think about it, I rushed into that. I can see why you're saying he's saying this, although I would still like to disagree, but you definitely, to say that you're misquoting is wrong. That to say, attribute misquotations to you is wrong. You're not misquoting. So I appreciate that. And this kind of, it's a shame we can't have this civil discussion with people. You know, there was Maulana Anis of Leicester, who had a similar discussion with me. He felt I was misquoting Ibn Ashur. We took out the tafsir, we read it together. At the end, he said the same thing, you're not misquoting. He said, okay, maybe he'd still like to disagree. He said that, you know, give me this point, that point, but you know, you're definitely not misquoting. And I appreciate, I don't want them necessarily to agree with me, but that civil respect. If only we can return to more and more of this, and may Allah. It says, right, so may Allah bless these ulama and their efforts. Ameen. Right, so, but because I was asked, I will kind of read the actual translation, because people said I missed out parts, which I didn't, but I'll read it to you. Right, so this, by the way, before I read this, we've got to understand that there's verses of the Quran in Surah Naml that are, what are they speaking about? They begin with verse 80, where Allah says, إِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى وَلَا تُسْمِعُ السُّمَّ الدُّعَاءِ إِذَا وَلَّوْا مُدْبِرِينَ. That you do not make the dead hear. So he's speaking about the people who are dead and those who are misguided. And he says, وَمَا أَنْتَ بِهَادِي الْعُمْيِ عَنْ ضَلَالَتِهِمْ إِن تُسْمِعُ إِلَّا مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا فَهُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. You can simply you can't guide those who are kind of blinded by their misguidance. Only those whom Allah wills, they are Muslims. So that's the verse. Then, so the first verse, verse 80, is speaking about the grave. Okay. And it speaks about you can't make them, you can't benefit them, you can't make them be guided, neither those who are misguided. Then verse 82 is this verse, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ دَابَّةً مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ تُكَلِّمُهُمْ أَنَّ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Verse 82, so 81, 80 about the grave, 81 is talking about even if they were misguided, only Allah guides them. 82 is when the matter has been established, we will take out for them a creature that will address them, that they used to deny our verses. They didn't believe in our verses. Okay. Then 83, so 82 apparently what I had said was talking about the Day of Judgment, the grave, the Day of Judgment. And then 83 and 84 say وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُ مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ فَوْجًا مِمَّنْ يُكَذِّبُ بِآيَاتِنَا فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. And on the day when we've taken each group of people who disbelieved and they spread apart, حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوا قَالَ أَكَذَّبْتُمْ بِآيَاتِ وَلَمْ تُحِيطُوا بِهَا عِلْمًا أَمْ مَاذَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And Allah says, did you deny my verses, and what was it that you were doing? So 83 and 84 are clearly speaking about the Day of Judgment. So the grave, the judgment, and then the afterlife, about what the result and so on about these groups. So the other thing to ask people is, you ask them, well, okay, let's put this all aside for a moment. I want you to tell me, what do you want us to believe in about this beast? So they say, we want you to believe that at the end of times there will be a beast. So you say, well, first of all, what do you mean by end of times? Do you mean when the time has ended? Or do you mean it hasn't ended, there's still plenty of time to come yet, like when there's, let's say, an antichrist and people are still running around doing their things, daily business? Do you mean then? And what is the purpose of this beast? So, because this beast is not a fitna, it's not a trial for people. It's from the ashrat, it's from the signs of the hour. So, most people will say, we don't know. They will say, well, once the beast appears, then Iman can't be accepted from anyone. So he said, well, okay, so when the beast appears and it talks, because it says it will talk to people, so the people it's talking to must be able to comprehend what the beast is saying. True? So yeah. So he said, well, is there just one beast? Because if the beast appears here, let's say in Birmingham, UK, and he's talking to me, and now Iman is no longer valid, no good deeds are valid anymore. So in that case, what about the people in China? If a person in China becomes Muslim, can he still not become Muslim because the beast is talking to me? Is that what we're saying? Or are we saying, what are we saying? So they're saying, or are you saying there's multiple beasts? Or are you saying that everybody will see the beast at the same time? Or are we saying, and is the beast going to stay with us so can people still do bad things? Like, can somebody still murder somebody? He can still do crimes. So people can still do bad things, and that will count against them. But if they do good things, Allah won't accept that from them. Is that what we're saying? I mean, what exactly are we saying? So now my point is, and then they say, yeah, but then you say, but I thought when the sun rises from the west, then Iman is no longer accepted. So they say, yeah, that too. Say, well, is the sun rising from the west, or is the beast, like, what's going on? So this is why everything to do with the end of times, people, is really something to be taken just as Islamic information, as Ibn Ashur said in his Tahqiqat wa Anzar. This is just Islamic information. It's to be taken with a pinch of salt. It's like stories. They give you some understanding, but they're not to be taken as like literal events like that, like we're going to. So now another confusion, by the way, is when we say something is from the sign of the hour, does that mean it has to have happened before the hour? Or could it happen with the hour? So At-Tibi and Ibn Hajar quotes him as well, and Fakhruddin al-Razi in his tafsir, say that the Ashratu Sa'a can occur before the Sa'a or indaha, or with the hour they can occur. So as the world is ending, so right now let's say the world is ending and the new world is being born. This happening that's happening, is that part of this world or the next world? That I accept is a valid difference of opinion. So you could say the actual Sa'a and what's happening right now and the new world being made and people appearing, is that still part of this world or the next world? And will that, because time will cease to exist. So all of a sudden, you can't say, well, time, because time ceases in that sense. So what are we talking? Is this all still the end of time? Because the end of time is at the same point, the birth of a new realm, which is timeless. So in that sense, I accept this ikhtilaf in saying the signs of the hour, because they can happen with the hour, and is the hour part of this world or the next world? I would say it's part of the next world. If people wanted to say that's part of this world, it's not a big deal. So now let's take a look at Ibn Ashur. So Ibn Ashur says in his verse, right? So after beginning this, he says, وَهَذَا انتقال إلى التذكير بالقيامة وما ادخر لهم من الوعيد. This is now going back to what was speaking about qiyamah, about death, about reminding them and what has been stored for them. فهذه, I'll miss out the grammar parts because that doesn't make هذه الجملة معطوفة على الجمل قبلها عطف قصة على قصة. This is attached to the sentence before it. ومناسبة ذكرها ما تقدم من قوله. He says, and this is then related to the verse إنك لا تسمع الموتى, that you do not guide, you do not make the dead hear. والقول, what is meant by القول? وقع القول. He says أريد به أخبار الوعيد التي كذبوها. This is meant that which they denied, the promise which they denied, the threat. متحكمين, in a state of arrogance. باستبطاء وقوعها, because they said it's taking forever to happen. When they would say متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين, when will this hour come, this promise come, if it was truthful. والوقوع مستعار لحلول وقته وذلك من وقت تهيئ العالم للفناء إلى أن يدخل أهل الجنة الجنة وأهل النار النار. Now listen, he says the fact Allah is saying waqa'a, it has happened. He says this is musta'ar. He says this is it's borrowed for its occurrence of that time. Now listen to this. He says it's from the time that the world begins its destruction till the point that they enter Jannah. That this is all one kind of time zone which is timeless. And he's saying that this is all one realm. You see, so you can understand what I was talking about when I said whether that's part of this dunya or the akhirah is up to people to disagree with. وَالْآيَةُ تُشِيرُ إِلَى شَيْءٍ مِّنْ أَشْرَاطِ حُلُولِ الْوَعِيدِ. And the verse points to a matter of the signs of the occurrence of this great threat, this great promise. الَّذِي أُنذِرُوا بِهِ, what they had been warned about. وَهُوَ الْوَعِيدُ الْأَكْبَرُ, and that was the greatest threat and promise. يعني وَعِيدُ الْبَعْثِ, and that is their resurrection. فَتُشِيرُ إِلَى شَيْءٍ مِّنْ أَشْرَاطِ السَّاعَةِ, and it points to a matter of the أشراط الساعة وهو من خوارق العادات. So, and it is from that which goes against people's habits, the adat. It's a non-supernatural event. So here, what is the supernatural event? It could be speaking about this beast, sure. It could be speaking about the resurrection because it's a supernatural event. Either ways. And he says, then he's going to go into grammar. وَتَعْبِيرًا وُقُوعِهِ بِصِيغَةِ الْمَاضِي لِتَقْرِيبِ زَمَنِ الْحَالِ مِنَ الْمَضِي أي أشرف وقوعه. And then he says that, look, and this saying, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلِ, that and when it has happened. Why? Because of its closeness. Now they're trying to say by this he means that it won't happen on the Day of Judgment, it'll happen close to. They could take that, but he's not saying that in my understanding, but they're saying when Allah is saying إِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلِ, and when it has happened. Why is he saying it when it has happened like this? because of the closeness to when it's going to happen. They're saying, no, so this means a closeness to the hour. They can take that, but it doesn't, in my understanding, mean that. Then he explains dabba, what creature means in Arabic. We can miss that part out, nothing interesting. Then he says, وَقَدْ رُوِيَتْ فِي وَصْفِ هَذِهِ الدَّابَّةِ, and there's a lot of narrations about this creature, when it's going to come out, the time it's going to come out. أَخْبَارٌ مُضْطَرِبَةٌ ضَعِيفَةٌ, weak, turbulent narrations. ضَعِيفَةُ الْأَسَانِيدِ, they are weak. You can find them in Tafsir of Qurtubi. لا طائل في جلبها ونقدها. There's no even point in bringing them and criticizing them here. Then he says, وَإِخْرَاجُ الدَّابَّةِ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ لِيُرِيَهُمْ, so bringing out the dabba from the earth is to show them كَيْفَ يُحْيِي اللَّهُ الْمَوْتَى, how Allah brings back the dead. إِذْ كَانُوا قَدْ أَنْكَرُوا الْبَعْثِ, because they had denied the resurrection. وَلَا شَكَّ أَنَّ كَلَامَهَا لَهُمْ خِطَابٌ لَهُمْ بِحُلُولِ الْحَشَرِ, that there is no doubt that the creature speaking is a sign that the hashar has occurred. The gathering, the day of judgment has occurred. وَإِنَّمَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ الْكَلَامَ لَهُمْ عَلَى لِسَانِ الدَّابَّةِ تَحْقِيرًا لَهُمْ وَتَنْدِيمًا عَلَى إِعْرَاضِهِمْ مِنْ قبول أبلغ كلام وأوقعه من أشرف إنسان وأفصحه. Now, why Allah made a creature address them? Because when the best of creation addressed them, they rejected it. Best of creation was who? The Messenger of God. The Messenger of God has already addressed them, and they denied it. They're dead. No creature has actually emerged yet. So, right now, لِيَكُونَ لَهُمْ خِزْيًا فِي آخِرِ الدَّهْرِ يُعَيِّرُونَ بِهِ فِي الْمَحْشَرِ. Now here, this caused a bit of confusion for some people, because they said, look, he's saying, so it's an embarrassment for them, a shame, at the end of time. At the end of time, but read on, يُعَيِّرُونَ بِهِ فِي الْمَحْشَرِ. At the end of time, يُعَيِّرُونَ بِهِ. Right, this is obviously في محل نصب. Right, يُعَيِّرُونَ بِهِ فِي الْمَحْشَرِ. That this is something that they are embarrassed with at the end of time, an embarrassment for them in the hashar. So some people said, well, this is at the end of time. Well, that comes back to end of time being that nuqta. That is that a part of this world or the next world? You can disagree. فَيُقَالُ هَؤُلَاءِ أَعْرَضُوا عَنْ كَلَامِ رَسُولٍ كَرِيمٍ. These people turned away from the words of a messenger. Tell me, is the messenger going to be at the end of time? Is the messenger going to come before Qiyamah? Right? They've already gone, the kuffar of Quraysh who denied the messenger of God. فَخُوتِبُوا عَلَى لِسَانِ حَيَوَانٍ بَهِيمٍ. So they were made to be addressed by an animal that normally doesn't speak. How can the kuffar of Quraysh be addressed by an animal? The messenger of God is not speaking to people today, is he? So this has already happened. And he says, على نحو ما قيل استفادة القابل من المبدأ تتوقف على المناسبة بينهما. So that's just a point he's saying. And then he says, as to this verse, إن الناس كانوا بآياتنا لا يوقنون تعليل لإظهار هذا الخارق للعادة حيث لم يوقن المشركون بآيات القرآن فجعل ذلك إلجاء لهم حين لا ينفعهم. Look, because this is from a khariq al-'ada, they said this is a supernatural event. So they said, oh, so it must happen in this world. حَيْثُ لَمْ يُوقِنِ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. The mushrik, who's the mushrikun? What, today? In his time? Ibn Ashur's time, 20th century, who were the mushrikun? Mushrikun of the time of the Prophet. That they denied the Quran, so they were forced to hear as an embarrassment. They heard that their denial was in vain and it was stupid of them on the tongue or at the speech of a creature on the Day of Judgment. So look, and then he says, as to people saying that the iman doesn't benefit, لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل in Surah Al-An'am. He says, وحمل هذه الجملة على أن تكون حكاية لما تكلمهم به الدابة بعيد. He says the fact that the creature is going to say this in this world is ba'id. Right, so there you go, people. You can judge for yourselves. There was no cut and paste. There was nothing. I wasn't kind of like doing one of those sly ones. It's very clear. Now you could say, look, I'm still not convinced. Fine. But to say I'm misquoting is just poor scholarship. That shows two things. It shows, one, the level of Arabic of these people is very poor. Right? They themselves. And two, if their Arabic is good, then they're too clouded to judge objectively. Because the people who I spoke to that said Ibn Ashur couldn't say that, the reason why they said that is because they said Ibn Ashur can't say that because that doesn't make sense, because there's a hadith in Sahih Muslim saying it. See, now this shows, so you're not reading it objectively, you're reading it with a mindset that, oh, he couldn't have said this. Well, that's your mindset. And I contacted, by the way, Sheikh Talidi. The reason I contacted him is because his father, Abdullah Talidi, has one of the most compound collections of the Ashrat of the Sa'ah, the signs of the hour, put together before his death. And I visited him a few years back as well in when I went to Tanja in Morocco. And so, alhamdulillah, that was a great blessed meeting I spoke of at that time. But because his father compiled one of the most comprehensive collections, and whether he agrees with that or not, that's his understanding. So I messaged this to Sheikh Talidi, Muhammad al-Talidi, and I said, look, here's the pages. Can you read this? Do you feel I'm misquoting? And he actually confirmed as well. In addition to other scholars I also messaged, he confirmed very clearly, regardless of his understanding, he said Ibn Ashur is saying this will happen on the Hashar, on the Day of Judgment, to show those who deny the resurrection. There you go, case closed. So that's no misquote. That's the point. And it just goes to show these people having a song and dance over this. It's poor scholarship. Right, people, let's take 1-2 questions, then we'll get to this discussion on marital rape and the understanding in Islam. What does it mean, the parable of the grain? This about the grain is just to show that the way a seed has exponential growth. That, you drop a seed and it grows grains, and then they have multiple seeds, and this is how good deeds work in this world. Okay, so your one good deed, you never know where it may benefit somebody. You have no idea sometimes. It's amazing. You think sometimes our good deeds, I don't know, sometimes I think back to myself and I think maybe, you never know, maybe there was some good deed that you did that Allah blessed you because of, I don't know, sometimes I think back, this incident occurs to me that, you see, like I mentioned before, I never grew up in a religious family at all. Family still ain't really religious in that sense. And I never used to pray, none of us used to pray. But I remember when I was about 16, just before going into 17, like that, my mum wanted to go on Umrah. And there was a group of people that were going on Umrah, and they said, let's take me. So I was like, all right, whatever, it's like a holiday. We had respect, obviously, for Islam and Mecca and Medina. And I had, as a kid, been to masjid, had the kind of, I was going to say, had the hell beaten out of me like everybody else, memorized all the stuff, and done all of that, not with tajweed and stuff, but my point was, I knew the basic stuff. I knew what salah is. I didn't know how to pray and stuff, but I never used to. So I went there, and I remember that, I was in Medina, and, obviously you're just chilling, going around, like I did a few of my things. I was just a kid as well. And I remember there's this guy, Pakistani kind of, a bit, he must have, I don't know, maybe late teen, 20 at most, something like that, year-old man, and I saw him there, and he was just standing there and really kind of bothered, and he had shalwar kameez on, so I could speak basic kind of Urdu, so I spoke to him, and I said, is everything okay? And he just said that, he said, he'd heard that to recite Ayat al-Kursi in front of in the Rawda of the Prophet was like a really great deed. So I said, okay, you know, like I don't really know much. So, and he said, I don't know it though. He said, I don't know Ayat al-Kursi. So I actually knew it. I mean, I wasn't religious or anything, but I knew it because obviously we memorized it as kids because, like I said, they used to beat the hell out of us, so we had to memorize stuff. So I said to him, well, Ayat al-Kursi, like, is it like Allahu la ilaha illallah? And he said, yeah. I said, well, I know that. I said, I can read it for you if you want. You know, you can read it after me. So he said, will you? And I said, yeah. And so we went and we just sat there in that Rawda by where the Prophet's grave is. And I just read it to him just in my tajweed of proper messed up tajweed back then. And he read it after me. And he was so chuffed by it. I mean, I don't think too much of it. But, you know, sometimes you think we just sat there by, you know, not too far from where the Prophet's grave is and just read that. And sometimes I think, you know, when I came back from Umrah, in the weeks that followed, that's when I started to get this interest to learn Arabic. And my whole life really changed from that point. And it just makes you think maybe sometimes in life you've done like a little deed. You know, just made somebody's day somewhere. And I think that may have made the difference to everything. Never really know, but I don't know. Like I so often like that memory kind of occurs to me that I think back and I suppose a blessed place, the Prophet's mosque. You know, may Allah accept from each and all. Ameen. Ameen. Right, so let's take some questions and we'll move on to that topic then. Right, how do you reconcile how Allah speaks about these features with the facts we are supposed... with the fact supposed to believe Allah is outside of our cognition? You see, Allah tries to address humans in a capacity that we can make some meaning out of it. If you can't, and let's say whatever meaning you take is, I think in a way, fine. The problem is when you try to impose what you're taking on other people. That's a problem. So Allah does sometimes speak about, look, like Allah will say his hand was above their hand and so on and so forth. But we generally understand that to mean support and stuff like this. I think most Muslims understand that to be support, but in other verses they might disagree. Is Sahari 3 a.m. or 1? Okay, so we've got Ramadan coming up. This is a good point now. Well, I think... Right, now look, you know, in the UK, the fasts are going to be incredibly long and lengthy. This has been happening for a few years now and will probably go on for a few years. Now, at least 18 hours and plus in certain places. And plus in certain places, in some European countries even more. Now, what is the ruling on these? Generally, I would advise all people who can keep the fast to keep it. Inshallah, there is great khair in these fasts, not just spiritual, not just Islamic, not from a faith perspective alone, even physical, health, endurance, all of these things. Allah is merciful, you know, and there is a great wisdom in a hadith, sumu tasihhu, fast, you will develop good health. That is a hadith of the Messenger of Allah. I do believe that these kind of things are a benefit for us. If, however, you're struggling, with the fasts due to health reasons, you can miss them and make them up later on. That is fine. Allah gives you that option. himself, that those people who cannot, if you've got certain health conditions, certain issues, some people have, especially with the lengthy things, I know some people have kidney issues, they need to be hydrated. I've been asked by people like that. I've been asked by people who've got like really severe skin disorders where they need a certain amount of moisture in their liquid by drinking on a daily basis. If they don't, it gets really bad, like they've actually been hospitalized. Things like anything like this, or some people, they start fainting. It's your call. It's not the Maulana Sahib's call. It's your call. If you feel you can't do it, this is your deen. Allah is your God. He's just as he is the Maulana Sahib's. It's not his call to make. It's up to you. You can do that. But I would say if you can fast, then alhamdulillah, or maybe try it. If it starts becoming too much, then just break it. That's probably what I would say. That's the first point. The second point is people have asked about examinations. I have said that, look, if you're going to struggle or it's going to affect you, you can miss that fast and make it up later on in the year. That is fine. You don't have to. I myself, I would argue that I have been through Ramadan in some parts of the world at some points in very hot temperatures. I have kept my fast generally, I mean, as far as I know. So as an individual, I would probably try to do it, but then I'm not you. You're not me. You might do something which I might be like, what the hell, I can't do that. And I might do something which you might think, I can't do that. So it's your call. Imam Shatibi says that every insan is faqihun nafs. It's your call. Right? So, but don't take having a tooth removed break the fast? No, it doesn't. Removing a tooth does not break the fast. Swallowing remnants between your teeth does not break the fast. Swallowing a bit of blood, for example, if your tooth or your teeth started bleeding during the day, does not break the fast. For the love of God, brush your teeth, people, when you're fasting. It does not break your fast. Use mouth sprays. It does not break your fast. For the love of God. And for humanity, unless you want to gas them. There is a few things in this world that are worse and more abhorrent than bad breath. Honestly, one thing I totally can not stand is bad breath. So by all means, use mouthwash, use toothpaste, use mouth sprays, use any of these things. Use those you get those things that just melt on your tongue. You can use them. It does not, even if they've got a taste, it is not food, people. It is not food, okay? Use a miswak if you want to use a siwak. Use whatever you want to use, but keep your mouth smelling fresh, okay? That's for the love of God. That one, I'll plead on behalf of all the other victims. All right, so what else? If you accidentally drink, eat, it doesn't break your fast. If you wake up late, you can still keep the fast. So these things, I just wanted to get some of these questions straight out there. If you've had a wet dream, it doesn't break the fast. Sexual foreplay does not break the fast. Actual sexual intercourse does break the fast. If you're gonna just to clarify that, people then they're gonna say Mufti is saying this now. But just sexual foreplay does not break the fast. I'm just trying to think. Vomiting does not break the fast. Not that the question of vomiting should follow foreplay. Then people say Mufti doesn't do himself any favors, does he, with his humor? Then somebody's going to turn that into like and they're going to put that out there, say, look what Mufti's so right, so anyway, what else? I'm trying to think. Vomiting doesn't break the fast. Bleeding doesn't break the fast. Billy boy! Alright! Billy's in the house, man. That's what we're talking about. Bleeding doesn't break the fast. What else? Rinsing your mouth. Gargling. doesn't break the fast. Even if remnants of water did, like if I kept rinsing my mouth, naturally some remnants will get swallowed. Will get absorbed. That does not break the fast. Okay. Accidental eating, drinking. Many people in the Maliki madhab have gone to the fact in saying that it breaks, but some people like Qurtubi and other people have questioned that, and I go with that understanding that it doesn't break the fast. Okay. So what else? I'm just trying to think of any. What else is there that's controversial? Eardrops don't. That's not controversial. I don't know why I said that after. I'm gonna just get done. But I don't know that. But eardrops are not controversial, and they don't break the fast. Nasal drops. Nasal drops. But eye drops do not break the fast. I would say anything that's not food does not break the fast. If somebody just swallowed dust or swallowed a fly or swallowed something by accident or breathed in smoke, does not break the fast. These things, wearing a patch for smoking does not break the fast. Taking injections does not break the fast. I had been asked previously, and I'm not encouraging this, just in case people say, but I had been asked, does masturbation break the fast? I have got a video, and I will release that. I mean, we released it as part of my clips. I've said, according to many of those ulama, Albani and all these people, Shawkani and those which are quote in the video clip, it does not break the fast. So I'm not encouraging. Let me clarify, right? Just in case people misquote me so much, man. But yeah. So what else? Sleeping does not break. You know, some people say, what if you slept the whole day? Doesn't break the fast. So these are some questions. I hope that's of some help. Right, okay, moving on to some. Somebody said, what? Whatever the right hand possesses, huh? Whatever the left hand possesses, is that what you're trying to say? Right, so, but I mean, look, I'm just giving these opinions. There are many people, there are other opinions. I've not said no other opinions exist in Islam. Many opinions that may have said everything I've just said breaks the fast. Fine, if you want to take that, you can, but this is, and I have got detailed short clips called, in my series, which is on YouTube, called Fast and Fiqhs. And I answer these in there with a lot of banter and these questions in short, I think 5-minute clips each. Somebody said Maliki madhab accidentally breaks fast. Liar. Look at this. See, this is what I mean by exactly the misquoting. I actually just said a moment ago, most of the Malikiya do say it breaks the fast, but some, like Qurtubi and others, have problematized that and said that no, because there's a Sahih Hadith, and that's what I go with. I actually just said that like 3 minutes ago. For God's sake, stop focusing on the masturbation question and listen to the other ones. This is exactly what I have to put up with. And then they say Mufti swears. What can I do? What do you expect me to do? Right, so the verse in Surah Baqarah, right, how did Ali, wow, ever since Ali watched me, he's been in the bathroom a lot this Ramadan. Right, so okay, let's right, okay, another question I want to mention. This is an important one with Ramadan. People have said there's many timetables are going to come out. Some are going to say I have to start the fast at 1:30 in the morning. Some are going to say it's 3:30. Which one should I follow? I've said before, follow whichever one you like. To me, you have that freedom. Islam gives you the freedom. In fact, I'm going to add another opinion. Somebody told me Sheikh Atabek has said this as well. I've not seen Sheikh Atabek's clip on this. But if he has said it, then Alhamdulillah, I'm really glad about that. But I've said since last year that look, there is an understanding within Islam, there are some ahadith which are sound that demonstrate that one can continue to eat sahur. That means you can continue to eat right up until a short period before sunrise. So with enough time to basically pray. Now, I would say for that was the default opinion. That was an opinion, and it's transmitted in several hadith. Many of the chains have been problematized, but 2 of them have been deemed sound. And it goes back to the companions, it goes back to Uthman, there's narrations going back to Abu Bakr about him eating when there was sunlight. There was, I believe it's Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman and other companions who've said that that we would na'kul wa nashrab wa huwa an-nahar. Kunna natasahhar ma'a Rasulillah wa na'kul wa nashrab. We used to eat and drink with the Messenger of Allah for our sahur, and it was daylight, broad daylight. غير أن الشمس لم تطلع, except the sun had not risen. And there's narrations from Uthman and so on. So I would say if that was in their day and age, then given our circumstances of the irregular, lengthy hours of fast that we have, and the hardship, and the principle in Islam is al-mashaqqa tajlibu at-taysir. So based on all of these, I give my fatwa in saying that you can eat and drink up until sunrise with enough time to pray before. You don't have to follow that. Don't freak out. You can close your fast at 1:30 if you want, by all means. But those who want to use that, Islam, in my understanding, allows it. So let's say sunrise is at, I don't know, let's just say sunrise is at 4:45. So you could eat and drink with enough time before 4:45 for you to just be able to pray. Okay? And that would give you, inshallah, maybe another 2 hours or an hour and a half of time, and it will make that fast easier for you. Okay, so if that's going to work, then by all means, alhamdulillah, I give that fatwa. I've heard that Sheikh Atabek has said that. I don't want to attribute it to him. Somebody told me they've read him saying that, so alhamdulillah, that's great news as well if he has said it. Even if he hasn't, it's transmitted from the Salaf and it's there. Cool. So eating after Salah, I would say if you're going to do that, then you do it in that order. You don't eat after Salah, you eat and then pray. That's how I would say. Okay, so that's my fatwa. Obviously you can disagree with it. You can go with somebody that varies the order or does something, but my ruling is like this. This is how I, when you see the white lining, right, okay, you're talking about obviously the verse that's explained like that. That's generally how people would start. They would start the fast there. But there's a whole discussion on why couldn't it be so clear, because even that hadith, look, even that hadith, if you think about it, the hadith is that the Prophet said, Kulu washrabu hatta, eat and drink until you hear the adhan of Ibn Maktoum. Because he's a blind man, he does not do the adhan until he is told, asbahta, asbahta. So just think about it rationally. That means at least a few minutes must have passed from when that, let's say, dawn appears, for somebody to go to him, to his house, and say, asbahta, asbahta. And then he, as a blind man, must go and do the adhan. So some moments at the very least have occurred after that. So that means it couldn't have been an on-off switch. It couldn't have been, right, the moment it's happened, it's haram. Because otherwise the Prophet wouldn't have left it to a blind man. Although that would be the main way, the general way of keeping fasts would be like that. That would be the general sunnah, in my understanding. But the validity can be extended, especially with harsh circumstances. That's my fatwa. Okay. The word Ramadan comes from like testing, like heat, things like this. Ramadan, the word Ramdah. Some people have tried to say it's a name of Allah. That's been rejected. But generally that's the understanding, like testing and heat and stuff like this. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at this hadith, people. And by the way, look, I'm not saying you're not going to, people have to agree with my understanding, but I'm just trying to create ease for people. Yes, there will be, people will disagree with me. But if that will allow people to keep the fast, then by all means, it's going to be hot as it is. Just as this journey, there's this, because for saying this, I'll probably get heat. I'll probably get heat for saying this, but if it can make life easy for people, if it can make this deen work for people, then by all means. And even if I face heat in saying that, there's a poem that Safar mein dhoop to hogi, chal sako to chalo. That there will be heat in this journey of ours, meaning like obviously sun heat, but dhoop to hogi, tum bhi chal sako to chalo. That if you can take it as well, then by all means. That sabhi lage hain bheed mein, tum bhi nikal sako to chalo. That everybody is in this queue, this kind of, if you too can bear the patience, then by all means. Safar mein dhoop to hogi, tum bhi chal sako to chalo. That he says, it's a very beautiful poem actually by Nida Fazli. He says, Kisi ke vaste rahein kahan badalti hain. That when does, for who does the path itself change? Path is always set. It doesn't change for you. Kisi ke vaste rahein kahan badalti hain. Tum apne aap ko badal sako to chalo. If you can change yourself, then by all means. Yahan kisi ko koi rasta nahi deta. Allah, Allah. Yahan kisi ko koi rasta nahi deta. Mujhe gira ke khud tum samal sako to chalo. He says here, nobody gives anybody way. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Nobody gives anybody way. If by tripping me over you can make it, then by all means. Allah, Allah. Dua, he says, kahin nahi hai suraj, dua fiza. That we can't see sunlight anywhere, that everything is just clouded. Tum apne aap se bahar nikal sako to chalo. If you can get out of yourself, then by all means. And he has this line in this ghazal of his where he says, Yehi hai zindagi, kuch he says, Yehi hai zindagi, chand khab kuch ummeeden. Ha 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 ha. Yehi hai zindagi, chand khab kuch ummeeden. इन्हीं खिलौनों से तुम भी बहल सको तो चलो. सफर में धूप तो होगी. Allah, Allah. He says that this is life at the end of the day. It is just simply some dreams, chand ummeed, some aspirations, some hope. That's all it is. If you too can kind of distract yourself with these toys, if you can be amused by these amusements, then by all means. Safar mein dhoop to hogi. That's people, that's what life is, I guess. Cool, let's get to this discussion. Allah, Allah, Allah. See, this is but that line really kind of hit me, where he says, Yehi hai zindagi, chand khab kuch ummeeden. That is all that life is. Some dreams, some hopes, some aspirations. That if you too, inni khilonon se tum bhi behal sako to chalo. That if you can be amused by these toys or this entertainment, then by all means. That is life, I guess, isn't it? There's those of you that are into Qawwali, there's the legend, the Don of Qawwali, Aziz Mia. People really love Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. He's amazing. But Aziz Mia was Aziz Mia. He was a legend. And he has this qawali where he says, where he's speaking about how difficult life is as a maqam, as a station. Life is so difficult. And he says, Barahi sakht nikla ye maqam e zindagani, that this maqam of life really was something. And there's a way that he does it. Like he reads these poems, and I was watching this, and now that he's dead, you see, he died in Ramadan, and now that he's dead and he's speaking about how difficult life had been, and he says that kabhi labbe aake nale, that sometimes the scream of ah on your tongue, on your lips, kabhi dil mein gham ke chale, sometimes these blisters ripping open in your heart, that bara hi sakht nikla ye maqam e zindagani. Wah, wah, wah. He says, indeed, it was really difficult, this journey of life. Huh? And the way he does it, when he's very animated. So he says, when he says, kabhi lab pe aake nale, kabhi dil pe gham ke chale, bara hi sakht nikla. And then he goes like this. He gets up and he goes, bara hi sakht nikla, ye maqam e zindagani. And he really, wow, man, honestly, watching it after he's died, it was just something else, man. But yeah, right, people, let's move on to something a bit more serious and important that needs to be discussed. I've been asked by a few people, can you tell me how much you've been giving, as I'm heart patient and can't keep them? I don't know what that means. Diabetic, something about fasting and diabetic. If you can't keep the fast, by all means, you can just give fidya instead. That's fine. And I forgot to add, by the way, for Ramadan, a side note, that women who are nursing, breastfeeding, or pregnant, they can miss the fast. And I do go with the understanding of Ibn Abbas and Ibn Umar, that they do not need to make up those fasts, and they can just give the fidya. Many ulama will disagree with that, and they say they need to make it up. But I would say that is how the apparent reading of the Quran is. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, and those who are actually capable of the fast, fidyatun ta'amu miskin, that they give a fidya for the poor people. People say this verse ought to read عَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ, but Allah didn't say that. Allah said عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, on those who are capable, that they give. And even old people, even though they are capable, but if they're going to struggle, they can choose not to and give fidya instead. That's my understanding. May Allah grant each and all ease. Ameen. Right, we've had this discussion. I've had this question brought in front of me about marital rape and its understanding in Islam. Okay, now this is a serious topic, very serious, and as you can imagine, in this day and age, a lot of the non-Muslims, maybe ex-Muslims as well, and atheists and Islamophobes have really sometimes, and the right wing as well, have attacked Islam on this kind of understanding. So let me just clarify, begin with the ruling straight away. Right, marital rape is utterly haram in Islam. Okay, there is not even 1% allowance for any, there is zero tolerance towards marital rape. Okay, I just want to put that out there first of all as the ruling. There is no such thing. And anybody, and I feel that it is once again it is an unfortunate, sad representation and misrepresentation of Allah and His Messenger to say that they allowed marital rape. Right, that is once again a disservice, and I would feel, I actually treat these things very harshly, and I would feel that this is a betrayal of Allah and His Messenger. But Other people will use less harsh words and say that, okay, it's at the very least a misrepresentation of Allah and His Messenger. Now, just to begin with now, what is this misunderstanding? So this misunderstanding stems from a hadith. There's a very, when I say famous, I mean popularized hadith that has gone around, is very popular in English circles, in Islamophobic circles, even in schools, secondary schools, people know about this. It has come up in many discussions that does the wife have the right in Islam to say no to sex? And people say she doesn't. And that is nonsense. She absolutely does. Right. Now, I want to clarify what's going on. People are basing this understanding on a hadith. This hadith that they are saying is found in Sahih Muslim. It is found in Sahih Bukhari. It is found in Abu Dawood, in Ad-Darmi, and in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad. Okay. It is a hadith that is solely transmitted pretty much by Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. Now this hadith pretty much works around this wording. So I'm going to read one of the wordings. Obviously they're all pretty much very similar to this wording. That إِذَا بَاتَتِ الْمَرْأَةِ, that if a woman goes to sleep or spends the night can be translated as that, هَاجِرَةً فِرَاشَ زَوْجِهَا, or هَاجِرَةَ فِرَاشِ زَوْجِهَا. It can be read in either way. Right, so if she spends the night having abandoned or not sleeping with her husband. In another narration, he says, إِذَا دَعَا, if the husband calls his wife إِلَى الْفِرَاشِ, to the bed, and she says no. So it has that variation in some narrations. So, لَعَنَتْهَا الْمَلَائِكَةِ, the angels will curse this woman حَتَّى تُصْبِحْ, until it's morning. And in one of the riwayah, حَتَّى تَرْجِعْ, until she returns to the bed. So it doesn't have to be the morning, it could be days later, until she returns to having sex with him. In one of the riwayat, it says, it doesn't say the angels, it says, يَسْخَطْ عَلَيْهَا, that the Lord's wrath will be upon her. The Lord himself, Rabbus Sama, or Manfis Sama, the one in the heavens, the one in the sky above, will have his wrath for her and his anger. Now, this hadith, right, that we're going to take a look at is the cause of this problem. Okay, this hadith is problematic, and I will demonstrate how this hadith is unreliable and clashes with the clearly established, with not only reason, the golden three, with reason, the established sources of the Quran and Sunnah, and the principles within Islam. Right, so first of all, let's just take a look at these chains. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll focus pretty much, let's take a look at the Bukhari riwayah, because everybody puts Bukhari first. Then we'll take a look at Sahih Muslim as well, and then there's 1-2 others. We'll take a look at them. So okay, like I said, this narration mainly comes pretty much only through Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. From him, it centers on some transmitters. Primarily, it centers on A'mash, and it centers on Qatada. These two pretty much, this is how it pretty much kind of comes down. There are some other issues as well along the way, but I'll speak about them. So let's take a look at the first riwayah in Bukhari, like which I've quoted to you. Now this comes through A'mash. A'mash, what do we know about A'mash? A'mash is saying An Abi Hazim, An Abi Huraira. It's transmitted from Abi Huraira. A'mash, he was known as a major mudallis. Okay, mudallis, that means that he would often just omit people and try to make the chain look as though it sound. Now some people have done tadlis sometimes by good intentions, but he was known to do tadlis from weak narrators, al-A'mash. Ibn al-Mubarak said about him, إنما أفسد حديث أهل الكوفة أبو إسحاق and al-A'mash, that these two have destroyed the hadith of Ahl al-Kufa. In Tahdhib al-Kamal, it stated that he did tadlis from over 20 sheikhs. From over 20 sheikhs he did tadlis, from one of them in over 100 narrations. Wow. Al-Ala'i said in his Jami' al-Tahsil and Ibn Abd al-Bar in his Tamheed that yudallisu an al-du'afa, that he would omit people knowing, like he would try to bring up a sound person to make the chain get by. Al-Dhahabi tries to justify for him a bit by saying ربما دلس عن الضعيف, sometimes he does tadlis from a da'if narrator, but ولا يدري به, maybe he didn't know. This is what he tries to. Other people were very harsh about him. Musa ibn Tarif says he was a kadhab, he was a liar. Abaya ibn Rab'i said he's matruk muttahamun fi dinihi, that he's rejected. Al-Hasan ibn Dhakwan said he's da'if. At the very least, this person is problematic. There is an'ana in this chain. That means he's not saying I heard. He's dropping it as just an from Abu Hazim. Then you might say, oh well, but there's a riwayah from in Bukhari from Shu'bah on Sulaiman from Abu Hazim. What about there? Aha, no A'mash in that chain. Aha, but I will say that one nice. But here, who's transmitting that in Bukhari? That is transmitted by Ibn Abi Adi. What do we have to say about Ibn Abi Adi? Abu Hatim al-Razi said, لا يحتج به in the Mizan. Ibn Muhriz said, قال Ibn Abi Adi, لا نكذب الله ما سمعنا من الجرير إلا بعد الاختلاط. That he was somebody who openly admitted later on transmitting certain narrations which were problematic himself. And Abu Hatim al-Razi in the Mizan says we don't accept from him. Okay, but then you might say, but in Bukhari there's another narration. Muhammad ibn Ar'ara from Shu'bah, from Qatada, from Zurara, from Abi Huraira. Aha! Muhammad ibn Ar'ara has some problems himself, but let's just put him aside. As I said, these narrations rest mainly on A'mash and Qatada. Qatada himself was another mashhoor mudallis, tadlis. He would often omit people. Dhahabi said he was ma'roof bit tadlis. Ibn Hibban said that. Hakim said that. All these people. Abu Dawood said he did tadlis from over 30 people. Lam yasma' minhum, but pretended as though he'd heard from them. Ibn Hajar even puts him in the third category of mudallisin, la yuhtajju bihim, who are not reliable. Right, so you might say, okay, so that's the three narrations found in Bukhari. What about Ad-Darimi? Darimi's riwayah is from Qatada again. What about in Ahmad ibn Hanbal? Once again from Qatada. What about another narration, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, from A'mash? But what about, you might say, but in Ahmad ibn Hanbal there's one narration where Qatada is saying, he's saying, Akhbarana, that he's saying that I heard, and I heard that, so he's using the word, he's not doing an'ana. You think, acha. First of all, that would be massively problematized. If that was the case, why didn't he say in the more authentic narrations? Why didn't they transmit that from him? Secondly, who's saying Qatada said this? Bahaz. And what does Abu Hatim al-Razi say about Bahaz? La yuhtajju bih. La yuhtajju bih. So, out. This one as well, out. Okay. Let's take a look at the narrations in Sahih Muslim. Narrations in Sahih Muslim come from Ibn Abi Umar, who says, I heard from Marwan, who says from Yazid ibn Kaysan, from Abu Hazim, the same narration going back to Abu Huraira. This Yazid ibn Kaysan, interessante. Yahya ibn Qattan says, Laysa mimman yu'tamadu ali, is not reliable. Abu Hatim al-Razi says, La yuhtajju bih, we do not take him as an evidence, right? Ibn Hajar even says, he tries to be good, says Saduq, he's yukhti, he makes mistakes. Not nice, this one. Right, so there's another narration in Muslim, you might say. I'll say, indeed there is, people, indeed there is. But who's in that? Al-A'mash. Is it mu'an'an? Does he do an'ana? Yes. So out. So as you can see, all of these narrations that I've quoted, they all come through Abu Hurairah and predominantly just rest on these two, A'mash and Qatada, both with mu'an'ana. The other chains where somebody claims that they said he heard has other problematic people in there, or other connected chains like this Yazid ibn Kaysan, which is unacceptable, or which I mentioned, like Bahaz is the ikhtilaf about Bahaz or Ibn Abi Adi. Okay, so that's this particular hadith. So now you might say, okay, well, but okay, the hadith is problematic. And what, Mufti? And what? Well, and a lot. Because this is not a small matter. First of all, I want, actually I was showing on my Facebook, I came back, I received this week a lot of books on Jarh wa Ta'dil. That's what I call textual pathology. That's Imam Muslim's Tamyiz. These are books, you've got Imam Zuhri's problematic narration in 4 volumes. This is the problematic, what I call narratorial pathogens. Allah! I want the credit for that. Narratorial pathogens, the ilal, right, in textual pathology, in ilal al-hadith. These are those that were found in Sahih Muslim. So that's some awesome kind of reading I've been doing. These are the ilal hadith, but you've got Ali al-Madini. But this is an interesting contemporary work as well. Now look, illa, when you reject the hadith with one of the key things, because it's from a well-known, everyday, ubiquitous matter, umum al-balwa. The Hanafiya were really huge on this. And they give examples, like things like breaking the wudu by touching your private parts. Everybody should know this. Why should it only be transmitted through one person, etc. And they go through other narrations. Then you've got other sections like when the fatwa of the Sahabi himself goes against it, like Abu Hurairah's famous hadith saying that, look, when the dog licks the bowl, you need to wash it 7 times. But Abu Hurairah's own fatwa was, no, you don't need to wash it 7 times. 3 times is enough. So that's Abu Hurairah himself going against what he's transmitting. That's an example. But let's say, and then when the narration goes against the qiyas or the qawa'id in Islam. So from the Hanafiya, Isa ibn Abban, Qadhi, you got Abu Zayd and many of the Mutaakhirin from the Hanafiya, and the Baghdadiyin from the Malikiyya rejected many Khabr al-Ahad if they went against. Some people called it Qiyas, but what they referred to as Bunani said was the Qawa'id, the principles which I established in Islam. Remember the 3 things which I've mentioned. Right, so you say, well, what's the problem with this? Well, first of all, how could something so well known only be transmitted through one companion, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu? When you think about it, how marriage, and there must be contentions happening every day in married life. So people are living with the Prophet. Abu Hurairah only comes to the Prophet in the last 2-3 years of his life. Yet the Prophet has spent a decade in Medina, married families, every day, everybody living there. Why does everybody not know this? Why is it only coming through these people? So that's one key contention. But let's go back to the Quran. Right. What does the Quran say? The Quran, when it speaks about women, wives, عاشروهن بالمعروف, that live with them with kindness, with known kindness. Bil ma'ruf. Is forcing to have sex, is that kindness? Qat'an no. Qat'an no. That is utterly unacceptable. Let's take a look at another verse. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And they have the same rights as they have against them. Like same for you, same for them. There's no hadith saying the man will be cursed if the woman wants sex. No such hadith. No such narration that the Lord will be upset and so on. Right? What about another verse where Allah is saying where things don't go well? فَإِمْسَاكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Verse of the Quran, people, Surah Baqarah. That فَإِمْسَاك, so hold on بِمَعْرُوف. Hold on to that relationship with ma'ruf, with kindness. أو تسريح بإحسان. Okay, it's not working, there's incompatibility between us, irreconcilable differences. Fine, you go your way, I'll go my way. That is fine. This is what the Quran is highlighting. Somebody could argue in the Quran there's a woman where it's addressing the issue of, in that particular example, of a woman creating issues in the household. So when in imra'atun nashazat, that when there's nushuz, the nashiza, the woman that is a nashiza, that is stirring up trouble and doing this in the household. And many people said nushuz included, they said refusing sex, not having sex and so on. Allah doesn't say alayha la'natullah, she has the curse of Allah on her and stuff like this. He doesn't say that. And that's a discussion which I've addressed in a different in a different talk, so I don't want to digress from that. What about another verse of the Quran? وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and from Allah's signs, and خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, that He created for you partners. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, so that you may find comfort in them. Now look at this, that you may find comfort. Now we understand that that may be in many ways. One of the ways, physical comfort, obviously, right? وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and He placed between you love, compassion. That's not compassion. Marital rape, that's no way compassion. Utterly unacceptable, goes against the Quran. This teaching that, now you're going to say, yeah, but that's not marital rape. If anybody argued that that's not marital rape, yes it is. It's emotional blackmail. You're emotionally blackmailing a woman to say that, well, God is going to curse you and distance you from His mercy unless you come here and have sex with me. That is emotional blackmail, which is abuse, which is emotional. That is a form of manipulative rape, because the other person is not wanting to do it, and you are then saying God is going to be angry with you if you don't get yourself here right now. So that is marital rape, and that is utterly haram. Let me go on though, people. There is a hadith. Now this hadith comes in Bukhari, it comes in Ibn Majah, it comes in Nasa'i, that the wife of Thabit ibn Qais, her name was Jamila ibn Salul. Jamila, this woman, that was her name. Jamila does mean beautiful as well, and apparently she was very beautiful. So, but that's her name, the wife of Thabit ibn Qais. She comes to the Prophet and complains about being with her husband. She'd got married to him and she wasn't happy in this relationship. And she says, مَا أَعْتِبُ عَلَيْهِ فِي دِينٍ وَلَا خُلُقٍ. She says, I can't criticize not his deen nor his good character. I can't criticize either. Meaning the guy's got impeccable character, good character, well-mannered. And deen, he's got good deen. Wow, okay. She says, غَيْرَ أَنِّي أَكْرَهُ الْكُفْرَ بَعْدَ إِيمَانٍ. I don't want to be somebody who goes to kufr after faith. In another riwayah, she said, غَيْرَ أَنِّي لَا أُطِيقُهُ بُغْضًا. I can't handle him out of despising him. In some narrations, she said, when he comes to me, I would rather spit in his face than have sex with him. Great guy, great character, right? Great deen. But she said, and in some narrations, there's narrations in Bazar and the Musnad of Ahmad where Ma'mar says, she says that you can see what I have in terms of beauty. Like she was apparently very beautiful. And she says that he was known lid-damama, for being, not to disrespect him, but he was known for being quite not so easy on the eye, quite ugly. Like people said he was damim. So he was a bit ugly. So she just couldn't tolerate that. And she's, in some narrations, like I said, she said, I'd rather spit in his face than have sex with him. But he's a great guy otherwise. You know, I'm not saying he's a horrible, nasty person. He's not. But she says, this brings out the worst in me. Did the Prophet say, Alayki la'natullah, al-malaikatu tal'anuk, the angels are cursing you, yaskhat alayki rabbuk, the Lord is angry with you, hatta tarji'i, hatta tusbihi, until you go back to his bed, until you do this, until you do that? Of course not. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, fine, said to him, talliqha. She had, because their marriage relationship was quite new, she had recently acquired a part of his asset. And so it doesn't look like she's doing this just to con him out of his assets. The Prophet asked, you know, this recently acquired land you took from him, you're happy to give it back? She said, yeah. The Prophet said, take it, said to him, and finish this relationship right now. Rahmatan lil alami, a mercy for the world. That's the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, in another riwayah, the Prophet himself was married to a woman. Now there's some debate on the name of this woman. Some people say her name was Umayma bint Sharahil. Some people said she was Al-Kalabiyah. Whoever she was, the Prophet, some people said that here's a woman, she's looking to get married. The Prophet got married to her. And this is transmitted, you have this. There's certain narrations of it in different books, some even in Bukhari, in the Sahihain, alluding to it. Now, the Prophet, when he just went into the house and she was there, she said, A'udhu billahi mink, I seek refuge in Allah from you. Now, the Prophet said, فَقَدْ عُذْتِ بِعَظِيمٍ, you have sought refuge in the mighty. And he said, and he left, and he said that this relationship won't work, and he left it, and he said to it's Abu Usaid that give her such and such thing as a gift, and I'll finish this. I'll divorce her from this relationship. Now the scholars did dispute, why did she say A'udhu billahi mink? Some people say she was set up to say that, like some of the wives had told her, say this, the Prophet likes hearing that. Some people say she didn't know he was the Prophet. She was just told, hey, would you, since she was interested in getting married, this was an arranged marriage, and she did not know that was the Prophet. But her words to the Prophet, and the Prophet said that, look, well, she's obviously whatever, but she doesn't seem very happy with this relationship. Let's end this right here. You see, that is what relationships are. The Prophet could have said, oh, the malaika tal'anuk, the angels curse you, this happens, that happens. No, that is not how Islam works. Okay. Another, and this is one of the most important narrations I want to bring your attention to, people. The verses of the Quran have said that the women have the same rights as you. That you live with them with kindness. You either accept them with kindness or separate gracefully. That that Allah placed love and compassion between you. That is, the Quran takes precedence. Then there is a hadith. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. It is in Sahih Muslim. It is in Nasa'i. It is in Tirmidhi. It is in Abu Dawood. It is in the Musnad of Ahmad. It is in Sunan al-Darmi. That the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, from Uqbat ibn Amir, that he said, Ahaqqu shurut, that the most deserving of the conditions, and tufu biha, that you must be loyal to, mastahlaltum bihil furuj, that which you got married by. That which you got married by. That, and the actual wording, that which you made their private parts halal to you by. Now people here say, oh, that means be kind, provide food, do this. You did not make that condition when you got married. What was the condition? The shart for the nikah to be valid. The shart for the nikah to be valid wasn't, is there food in your cabinet? That wasn't the shart. Was the shart, have you got a horse, or do you have a vehicle, or do you have money? That was never the shart of a nikah, to make a woman halal for you. The shart was consent. It was consent was the shart. Rida was the shart. Rida tarafain. That she was supposed to say, qabiltu, I accept. That condition you must live up to. You cannot turn away from that condition. That hadith is found in Bukhari, in Muslim, in Darmi, in Tirmidhi, in Abu Dawood, in Musnad of Ahmad. How can people justify, go away from the clear verses of the Quran, clear teachings of the Messenger, the principles of Islam, that are that there is no harm in Islam? How could Islam condone harm? How could it condone harm like this? It would do nothing but breed hatred if you were. So these clearly show, and a matter that is so well known, how is it only Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh transmitted it? How is that? And that too through mainly A'mash and Qatada, both through mainly Tadlis and An'ana and the chains in the problems which I've already highlighted. And it clashes with, you see, the wife of which Thabit ibn Qais, her story which I just read to you. It clashes with this hadith of Uqbat ibn Amir that you must maintain the initial condition for nikah, and that condition was consent. Right? So anybody telling you anything different is wrong. They are either ignorant, they are either misinformed, or they are misrepresenting Allah and His Messenger. And I seriously beseech them, plead to them to stop misrepresenting Allah and His Messenger. Now somebody may say to me that, yeah, but look, in a relationship, naturally there's always some compromise. That's a fair statement, true, there is always compromise in relationships. That's the very essence of relationships. And you might say, well, look, even with sex, one of the two partners, it's not always that both partners are always on that mindset equally at the same time. One of them might be kind of always a bit of a compromise, like, okay, and you think, well, fine, that may happen, and I'm sure that happens, right? So you might say, well, so what's the problem? Look, that is not necessarily the problem. The problem isn't, can you persuade people? Like, if you're in a relationship and a person wants to be intimate and the other person's feeling, and you persuade them, people are always persuading people, hey, come on, let's do whatever. Nobody's arguing against persuasion, but it should be done. Two important factors. One, through non-abusive means. Not physical, not emotional, not mental, not psychological abusive means. Abuse does not enter your persuasion. You can persuade people, you can be nice to people, you can do things. People are always persuaded. People are persuaded to do everything, but not through abusive means. No way. Two, if you're gonna persuade people, don't bring God into it. Don't bring God, Allah and His Messenger to justify you having sex. That is haram. By all means persuade somebody. Be good to them. Be kind, whatever. Hey, listen, how about a holiday? Whatever you're going to do. Not a holiday every time. That'll be like a daily holiday. But my point is, persuade people not through abusive means, any kind of abuse. Mental, physical abuse, psychological, emotional, religious, spiritual. And two, do not bring God, do not drag the name of Allah and His Messenger to just fulfill your need to have sex. That is unacceptable. Allah and His Messenger are not to be used as tools for you to manipulate people so you can have sex. By your own means, relationships, it's true, they are always kind of compromising balances, and you can persuade people. That's your life, it's your business, it's between you two. But these things are utterly haram. So that's something I thought was very important to clarify. Because look, at the end of the day, you have to think of it from reason. Look, if you're a woman, and there are many women out there, even for men, just think about it. Or if you've got a sister or a daughter, or it could be anybody. Just think about it. Just put your theory of mind, just put yourself in there. You don't like to be emotionally blackmailed into having sex, being violated, just because God is going to curse you. That is just low, man. And then to attribute it back to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is even worse. So these were some words that I've seen a lot of people misuse. I felt that, look, they had to be clarified. I will clarify that, look, Islam by all means does teach that a couple, men and women, have rights. In a relationship, you have rights upon each other. People should not play unnecessary mind games with each other. People should not, Islam does speak about, look, people should not withhold sex from each other as a kind of instrument to make the other person suffer. And if that is happening, then you need to question the relationship you're in. If a person, let's say there's sexual incompatibility between a couple, if it could be the woman, it could be the man, if somebody has a greater sexual libido than their partner and it's just not working, then they need to question if the other person is withholding sex to make them suffer. Then they need to question themselves, am I in the right relationship? Why am I suffering? Why is this person, doing this with me or whatever? And then if they're uncomfortable in a relationship, they should just part ways gracefully. And that relationship is not for them. Or maybe they can discuss it, maybe they can improve on it, maybe they can work on it. But what I'm trying to say, and obviously through stages of life, people's libidos will vary as well. Sometimes, rocketing, sometimes maybe not so much, sometimes rocketing again, right? But the point is that these things are all natural, but what you don't do is to get this done, let's bring down Allah and His Messenger, and yes, Alhamdulillah. So that's very disrespectful, and I find it very dishonorable to Allah and His Messenger's honor. So I hope that makes sense. People, I think with that, it's been 2.5 hours. You guys have been awesome. Shukran for really staying on. As the same as last year, with it being Ramadan coming up just within the next couple of days, I don't do Monday nights with Mufti in Ramadan because, one, better things to focus on. Two, everybody's got their iftar and a lot of things going on. But what I will try to do is sporadic, shorter, maybe just 20 to 30 minutes, just lessons from the Quran. So maybe just read a few verses, translate them, and give some meaning. That's all. During the month of Ramadan. And people have asked me, what should we do during the month of Ramadan? I think that, look, the fast is amazing as it is. Keep the fast. I would like to encourage people to what I'm calling a back to basics project. It's your personal project. I want you to take it up. A lot of people have contacted me that, look, they struggle to pray. I want you to begin your salah. Even for those, and this is a spectrum, those who are, really struggling, then even if you're praying just the fard prayer, and even if you're praying it all together at one point before you're going to sleep, or as you wake up, whichever way, you're just praying all of them together. And those who can pray, maybe, they can do better than that. Maybe they can break them up into two. Maybe they can pray all the day prayers together and the night prayers together in one go, the obligatory part. And maybe there's some who can pray all 5 in their time. Then Alhamdulillah, and there's some who maybe can only just pray the fard. Alhamdulillah, do that. Just the obligatory part. And there's some who might be able to do the nafal. Wherever you are on that spectrum, I encourage you to kind of to embark on this back to basics project. And what I would say, so do that. And even if it's just a few verses of the Quran each day in Ramadan, just read it. A few verses, that's all. Nothing much. Don't need to burden yourself. If you can read more, by all means, that's beautiful. If you can't, a few verses, maybe you've read half a page. Alhamdulillah, it's taken you a few minutes. That's awesome. So that's a key factor, and I wanted to focus on 3 things. 1, the salah. 1, some connection with the Quran, and by extension, learning. So if you want to learn things, learn things. People have asked, what should I do in Ramadan? Learn. If you want to learn Arabic, learn Arabic. If you want to learn about Islam, learn about Islam. If you want to learn about the amazing character of the Prophet, learn about that. Learn about anything. Just learn, read, listen. Whatever's your thing, do it. And the third thing about humanizing people. Okay, I'd like us, this is the back to basics kind of project. The third thing, I'd like people to really, and this can be done in two ways. One, at a social level, and two, at a conceptual mental level. So at a social level, by maybe being charitable, which a lot of Muslims are, but to really understand, I want this to expand beyond just Muslims, to really try to think from an angle of compassion for humanity as a whole, for even non-Muslims. I don't mean across the, it doesn't have to be across the globe, just thinking, look, like I want you to put yourself in the mind of non-Muslims in this country. Just think how they see the world. How do they see us? How do they see Islam? Just think about that. It's only a thinking project. And the other aspect of it is maybe you could do something charitable. Maybe you could help out. A lot of people do give to Muslim charities, but maybe you could just give to a local hospice. It doesn't have to be Muslim. Maybe you could give to a local children's kind of home, or a children's the children's ward where children are suffering, children's hospital, or anything. Just a little. It doesn't even have to be Muslim where you're giving. You could give to Muslim. It doesn't have to, but just reconnecting with human beings. So the one thing, your salah, however you pray. 2, some connection with learning in the Quran. And 3, some connection with human beings on a societal level. People, I think that's all I would really, I think that will be awesome, inshallah. It'll be an amazing journey. And don't worry about things like doubts and stuff like this. We all have doubts, and it's all good, and we can discuss these, inshallah, in their own time. People, I'm going to leave you with that. Right, there's a lot of some people just starting some discussions there. I can't really we've gone into this too much. Do reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter. I need to be more active on Twitter, Instagram, Mufti Abu Layth, YouTube, Mufti Abu Layth. Subscribe to my channel, people. All right, sounds kind of cool, and subscribe to my channel. Right, so Snapchat Malm 2014, MALM 2014. Right, other than that, people, take very good care of yourselves. Have an awesome Ramadan. Hopefully I will be seeing you online in between. Spread love, people, not hate. Right, that's my inshallah message. Take very good care of yourselves. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.